All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode 68 of the On Air Advocate. Where at the On Air Advocate, we look to provide education, support, and empowerment for all of those with different abilities, mental and medical illnesses, and their caregivers. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Tammy Flynn, and I am the host and producer of the On Air Advocate. And I am super excited that you are here joining us this evening, or if you are catching it on the replay. Now, as always, if you think that this content that we're using and talking about tonight could be relevant for anyone, please hit the share button and share the love. Now, if any of you have been following the last few weeks, we are in a full series of back to school. And so with that, I am so excited to have Sabrina Thomas here with us tonight. She is an author, a speaker, an advocate, and the owner of Sabrina T Speaks. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, I am so excited because I think that even if you're the most hardcore advocate, you've been doing this for years, you always can gain some knowledge from others and their journeys and what they have found to be some of the most relevant tips and tricks and tools and strategies. So I am excited for you to share with us tonight the 8 effective tips for getting ready for back to school. But before that, I would love for you to share a little bit about what kind of brought you to this, to the space where you're talking about tips and advocacy. Why'd you become an advocate?
Okay. Well, my why is my son. I have a 17-year-old special needs son. His name is Omar. Omar has an intellectual disability. He's autistic and he has cerebral palsy as well. And I believe maybe when he was like 3 or 4 years old, I realized that I was in a place when he was first diagnosed, how it can be, that lonely place where I didn't have any direction. I didn't know what I was doing. In my immediate circle and my family, I didn't have anyone who had a special needs child. So I was really kind of isolated and I didn't have any direction. And at that point, I said, I've always wanted to be that person I needed then for that person now. So I just became, how we do, we're researchers. We're like the FBI,
You're investigators.
And, so basically I just want to be that person that I needed then to that person that needs it now, because a lot of people have, it's not about not being educated. Well, yeah, I guess it is. It's not on a level of degrees, but people just don't know. I'm finding out things all the time as a mom, and I think I'm very well educated as far as an advocate, but there's things that I just don't know, changes that happen. And it's just a continuing knowledge, just continuing to educate yourself. You always have to be up on everything and stay informed with everything. And I just want to be able to share that. And I know there's some parents out there that can't do that, or maybe don't want to do that, or they don't have the time or the resources. So I'm that parent. So I'm that parent for you. And if you need something, I'll try. If I don't know the answer, because like you said, I don't know everything, but I will find the answer. It'll take me a minute, but I'm going to get the answer for you.
And I think that we just had that great conversation the other day about that, as your son, is still under 21 and my son's turning 21. Yeah. It's a whole new ball game then.
Yeah.
Right. And like relearning all of those things too. And, we think that we know all this stuff, but we just need to team together and be listening to each other all the time.
And you're so right. I truly believe, like even talking to you the other day, I just found out so much information, having someone as yourself, your child is older than mine. So you went through a lot more, went through a lot more. And just like talking to some of my peers now that, we're all connected and we all have special needs children or adults.
Right.
You learn so much. And I just think that connecting with someone that has a special needs child, that's transforming for me.
Yes.
You don't know. And sometimes the doctors don't tell you. You have to really find a lot of the stuff word of mouth.
Right.
Googling everything. You know how when you Google,
I always say don't go.
It can scare you. Don't Google. Because Lord. Because every child is so different. Every child is so different. And this, like they say on the spectrum, you could line 30 autistic boys up the same age and everybody has different stuff going on. It's just
right.
so,
Right. Exactly. So when we talk about that, and when we're talking about under the age of 21, when we think about that for back to school, we are tackling, because we had some of the colleges and life colleges on this week as well. Then that's for that
Yes.
18 and over. This is kind of 21 and under, and really looking at when we're going back to school, what are some of the things when we're still in that world of IEPs? Because you know the world of IEPs go away.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah.
And so that's a whole new world. But when you're still encompassed with that world and surrounded with it, some of those tools and strategies that you have found out of those 8. So what's your number one?
You know what? There's like there could be a 25 or 30 tools. There's probably more than
Right.
that.
You're right.
These are the 8 that I think that'll get you
love.
in a good spot. So number one, the first thing, because I'm not, I'm an IEP coach. So the first thing I always start with is examine your IEP. You must examine, I mean, even in the summertime, I tell people, you can look at your IEP in the summer, you can review it. And if you don't have it, I would just advise someone to call the school, because school has, certain hours in the summertime. Call the school, and most of the time, well, all of the time, they should be able to send you your IEP. And you can go over just to make sure that everything that for the upcoming year is in its proper place. And then once you find get your IEP, just examine it. Make sure that everything academically is in line, everything that you think that your child should be doing, everything that's lined up, the goals are in place. And then that way, when you start the school off, start the school year off, you're starting it off right. There's no surprises, because something could be
right.
And then the school year starts, and now you should be let's be ahead of the game.
Right. I know what you're saying, because it's 8:00 at night by you, and it's 7 here. I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. Just
because
I just think when you start in school, if the teachers already know and the IEP know, then that way you can be proactive, and maybe by the time the child starts school, everything can be in place. So you don't have to be waiting another 2 or 3 weeks before you get all these things and all the teachers on board with the therapist or whatever the team is for your child.
Now, I know me and you are both in different states. You are in Georgia, right?
No, I'm in Virginia.
Virginia. You're in Virginia. And I'm in Wisconsin.
Yes.
We probably only have about a couple more weeks of sun.
In Wisconsin, they already started school, right?
We actually start usually school September 4th, but our private schools can start whenever they want.
Okay,
so some of them have started.
Well, I thought you started already, but yeah, we started, because some people that I talked to, they went last week, some went this week. So
I know, so it's like all different timing. But when it comes to the IEP, so in Virginia, did they legally, like at the end of each IEP, do you find that a lot of parents, that they don't give them a copy like a day or two after that, or a copy right there?
Yeah, you know what? I get maybe because they know better, because I'm an advocate, they know, and I come with my list and all my stuff. They're like, what are you doing? But a lot of people say that they don't get a copy until the meeting. And then as far as the copy after, because if you make notes, you make changes.
Right.
I always get mine within 2-3 business days in the book bag. But a lot of people say they don't get that.
Okay, so that's something important.
That they need to have it. You don't need to, a parent shouldn't show up at an IEP meeting just reading it for the first time, because they're not going to let you sit there and read it. Most of the time they're like, okay, check, and then want you to sign. Wait a minute, you need to look at that thing, make sure everything is in its place.
Right.
So I always tell people, make sure that you have that IEP prior to that meeting. If we're scheduling a meeting, you need to give me the chance to look at the IEP prior, so I can say, okay, this is not right, I want to change this. And maybe everything looks good, but just give me that chance to review it, because most of the times those IEPs are long. My son's is 15 pages sometimes, 15 more. And you need time to thoroughly look at that IEP.
Right. Now, something that's great with those too, if you're getting them every year, I mean, I would always say, just like you're saying, when you redo that new one, it should come in that backpack in 3 days. If not, you should be knocking on the office door to say, why don't I have it?
Call was like, hey, I didn't get it, because they're putting it in the book bag. Did you overlook it? But you should never get an IEP on the day of. And then some people don't even get it back after the fact. And that's the signed copy that everybody is in agreement. And this is, that's your plan. You need to have that documentation. So definitely.
And then keeping them, year to year is so good if you get them in a binder, you know what I'm saying? And then that way you can.
The
I love some binders.
I need a tote for mine because a binder is like, okay.
I got one of those. I got like the binder, the big ring one like that. And then you can keep them all in there. And when you're speaking to making sure things are accurate on there, I think when we spoke about this too, really looking at what the goals are and making sure that those goals are truly attainable within that time and that they haven't reached too far.
Exactly. Yes.
Because that can really impact your services. So, for some that don't have other health impairments, that they have other neurological psychovals or psychovals, where they've had their IQ, evaluated, all of that. If you don't have that other documentation, that IEP is like your Bible.
It is.
That you need to get services. So, yes, love it. Love the IEP. Keep it with you.
Keep that IEP going. Okay, so number 2. Visit the school. I think it's very important for parents and the child to visit the school prior. Now, I do notice a little spin here. A lot of times lately in Virginia, I don't know about anybody else's state, but they have the open house after school starts.
And I have heard that.
Yeah, I don't kind of like that because it's after the fact. So if my son just started high school or even middle school or even elementary, and you're having it after the fact, how does that help with the anxiety? You're just taking the child to the school and they don't know what to expect. You don't know what to expect. So what I propose that you talk to the teachers prior, or the principal and the education team, and see if you can visit the school, prior to that. Phone call, email, or something, so that that teacher knows who your child is, and that teacher knows who the parent is. Now, I do understand, because I said this to the principal before. He said, but if everybody's doing that, then it's technically an open house prior. And I'm like, well, maybe you should do an open house prior, because why do it after? I'm not, especially for special needs kids, because it's such a change, and a lot of kids don't do good in change. And I know my son, even though he's going to the same school this year, he's having different homeroom teachers. So where he went in the door, and when he went to the left, he was trained to go to the left. When he first got into the school, he may be going to the right. He may be confused.
Right.
So me personally, I've already had my arrangements. They're going to see me next week. They're going to see me next week, because I just want him to be prepared and reintroduce him, because he's going to have some of the same teachers, but he's grown since June. So I need to give you some updates. Tell him how the summer was. I just think that communication is so vital, especially with the special needs child. Communication is so vital, because things could happen medical wise, and needs have changed, and just whatever the case may be. And we need to be able to communicate that to the teacher, and show that teacher, especially if it's in a new school, introduce that teacher to this child they never seen before. That's different when you're looking on paper, because bio, and you say, oh, this is Billy. Okay, it's nothing like you seeing Billy for the first time and you getting a vibe how Billy may react to you and what he looks like. You know, so I think going to the school, and it helps the child too. Make that child feel comfortable. This is your classroom. This is your teacher. This is where the hallway is, or whatever. Just making that it'll cut less on anxiety.
Right. And I've never had a school, as we talked about, my son was integrated and into the regular ed setting, but he's also right now in more of a self-contained school for his last, his last couple of years. So even with that, we still go and visit, like we're there beforehand, so I've never had a school. My point to this is that has said no, if you're just or even you just stopping in. Even if you might not have a sit down with the teacher.
5 minutes, 5, maybe 7 quick minutes, because what I'm going to do is, this is Omar, and hey, how was your summer? Say something really quick. Because I know if you're spending a half an hour, and everybody's doing it, it can get too much. But just make a quick 5 to 7 minute trip, to the teacher, letting the child, because he hasn't been there, a couple of months now, just refreshing his memory, where everything is at, and this letting him know this is his classroom, this is where he's going to sit, this is his lockers, and this is where everything is, where he hangs his coat up, and this making him feel comfortable. It doesn't take that long. And no, they're not going to probably deny you. I just think it's important for me. And then what I do is I give them a folder. I have downloads, things I print out of about me. How was my summer? What I did, because like I said, it's going to be some of the same teachers he has, maybe a different homeroom from last year, but he's grown. He's not the same person on June 14th when school was over. He's grown. He's a different kid now. So I need to update you. We need to be updated. And that's it.
Right. Just keeping that good communication. And if you can't get in, another idea would be to get the teacher's email and maybe personally set something up, with the teacher, or get at least on a phone call. So if you're a parent that maybe can't get into the school, at least having that good icebreaker conversation.
Someone told me that the other day. They said, what if you can't get to the school? This is not okay, well, then you get the email. You find out what the teacher's email is. Most of the teacher's emails are on the website if you find out what the teacher email is. And then what you can do is, we got email, we got technology. Send a nice email with some updates, and then you can get long-winded on the email and attach a picture. Especially if you never saw the kid before, it's a new school, attach a picture, maybe attach a picture of you and your son, just to make it personal. And most of the times when I talk to teachers, they don't have a problem with that. They like that because they like to be included, and they want to feel like there's communication both ways. And that starts that relationship that you're going to need throughout that school year.
Right. Exactly. All right. We're on to number 3, folks.
So number 3 is kind of piggybacking off of number 2.
Okay.
So with number 2, you're talking about visiting the school, meeting the teacher. But number 3, we're talking about talking to their child about the school year and what to expect upcoming, outside of the school. Just talking to your child, letting them know what's going to go on. Because for me, it's like, even though Omar and I know this is different for every child, because every child has a different ability to understand and comprehend. Now, I do know Omar is low functioning. He's considered low functioning autistic. So I still tell him things just like if it was just you and I. Now, I'm not sure, because I'm not a doctor, how much he's really understanding, but I just don't want to lessen it. You know what I'm saying? So I'll tell him school is starting next week, and he'll say, and I'll go through this whole spiel of what grade is he in, or what to expect. It's not a long sermon, but I'm just telling him the process of school. You're going to go to what time he's going to go to bed, and just little things for the child can be connected to the situation. I just think that talking to your child, because everybody's child is different. If you have a child that's high function, they understand, okay, I'm going to school next week, what to expect. I just think that you need to communicate that to the child, parent to parent, parent to child, communicate that and let the child know what to expect. Yeah, we just left the school, and now you're going to see your environment, but I'm going to sit here at home and let you know what we're going to do starting next week, going back to school, going to bed, the routine. And then that's where the other things come to play. Like, okay, we're going to go shopping, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and just prepare all those things that the student, the child, needs to be included in that process.
Right.
Back to school, everything.
Right.
For me, I just think it's easier, because I used to grab everything and supplies, back to school clothes, and then don't include in here. This is it. I just think it's a better process when you include the child in their school, in their education, anyway, and just make them feel comfortable, like they're part of the process, because they are the process.
Right. And I think that you were speaking to anxiety and everything, and giving them kind of a rundown of exactly what's going to happen. Yeah. I know that for my son, in his bedroom, he has a wipe off board that goes every day exactly what's going to happen. That's just kind of spelled out. And when he wasn't functionally able to make out words, simplistic words, I used to use pictures of what was going to happen. I had laminated pictures, that way of this is going to happen. And they say that lowers anxiety. They said so much of kids that just really brings it down. And then we have one on our fridge as well that also in the morning gives the rundown, and then we have a flip chart that for medical appointments and stuff like that. But
now, is that the one that you have for feelings and emotions?
The flip chart?
Yeah.
Oh no, I gotta bring my flip chart in here one day.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll bring it in here during this live. I don't know, but it's a big flip chart.
Okay, I got you. Yeah.
It's about this big.
Part of the communication, you have to, that's just the part of the communication that is very important, because some kids are higher functioning and they understand. So they have an opinion. So I can talk to Omar and I may not get a response back. He's just probably going to say, okay, but you can talk to another child who's higher functioning, and they might be nervous and have anxiety, have their own opinion. And you want to make sure that you discuss that with them to make sure that they're okay on the first day of school. Yeah, right. We went to the school and you met your teacher, but what are your concerns?
Right.
So right. I think that's important too.
Right. And just bringing everything to bring that anxiety down and make them feel comfortable.
And then look, we have anxiety too, because parents, we have anxiety, especially when you're going to a new school. Even if you're not, my son's going to 11th grade, he's not going to a new school, but it's anxiety because it's a new school, new kids, a new year. You just have anxiety. So I try to lessen the anxiety, being prepared. And I think that planning ahead is a way to do that.
Right.
Yeah. Yes, so that brings me to number 4. Number 4, you must make sure that you have transportation set up, because like me, for instance, because some people forget, my son is going to the same school, and normally he comes home after school. So, he gets picked up in front of the house, he gets dropped off in front of the house. However, this year he's going to the Virginia Beach Recreational Rec Center because they have a therapeutic camp after school program, and he's going to go for the first time. He's getting older. I kind of just don't want him to come home watching TV. I want him to be around his peers, and I want him to be productive. So we switched it up. So I have to make sure that I call transportation, which I already done. And then I'm going to call him again, maybe like that Thursday before the school, because it's like the holiday weekend, or that Wednesday, to make sure it's properly set up. Then I'm going to call the school to make sure they know on the first day of school to get Omar, to drop Omar back off, at the new spot, because it's a different routine. So you have to make sure those things are set up, even when they go into a new school, because the first year he went to the school, I had 2 buses come and get him, because he's not going to his zone school. He's going to a school that's out of zone that I requested, but the zone school came to pick him up. And I was like, no.
That would have been bad.
No, but what I'm saying is just to make sure that everything's in place, because he would have got on the wrong bus, went to the wrong school, it would have been a hot mess, and he would have been confused on the first day of school. So it's always better to make sure that you take care of all these things prior, to make sure everybody's on board. There's always a mistake that can happen, but if you make sure everything's taken care of prior, then there's probably no room for too many mistakes.
Right. It's kind of, I always say, following up to follow up to follow up to follow up to follow up. And if you don't hear back, you just keep on calling and keep on calling. It doesn't matter. I always like to tell people how long you've been an advocate or you've been advocating. You still got to do the same follow-up. It's not like if you become a really great advocate and you know what to say, that they're going to call you back without 5 phone calls.
No. It doesn't work like that. It really doesn't. It doesn't. That
would be a perfect world.
Yeah. Okay. So number 5 is organize your afternoon appointments and your therapy appointments. I know for me, Omar has therapy outside of school, and sometimes in the summer hours that changes. So if he normally goes at 5 o'clock, in the summertime, you try to get it up to 12. You got to make sure that that's a different appointment now. Same appointment, different times. Just make sure that you rearrange your schedules and all the appointments for the kids' after school activities, and make sure all of those things are in place, because I know a lot of people have outside therapy appointments, and in the summertime they change them, because if you're during the school year, most of the parents' therapy appointments are between 5 and 6 because you're in school all day. Why not get your appointments up to 11 or 12 or 10 in the summertime? That frees your afternoon up. Most people do that. Not all, but most. Just make sure that you're taking care of that. You're getting your appointments back in line, and make sure you're doing it in a timely manner, because that appointment that you had prior may not be available anymore. I don't think they hold it. You're just wishing that it's still there and nobody takes it. But I don't think they hold it, because they don't. I lost a couple slots a couple of times trying to do that myself. So just making sure that you're organized with your appointments, and make sure that those appointments in school are lined up as well. And that goes back to the IEP, because my son also has speech and occupational therapy in the school, and make sure those appointments are lined up as well, because sometimes they fall through the crack I'm an advocate, a very good one. And no one told me that my son wasn't going to speech therapy for 6 weeks.
Oh,
I just assumed because it was in the IEP that he was going, but I
right.
didn't check. That was one thing I didn't check. That's why it always goes back to talking to the teachers, communicating.
Mm,
No one said, "Oh, I forgot. We didn't sign him up.
right.
He wasn't going." Making sure that all those appointments in school and out are being taken care of. That
Right.
that he signed up for whatever's on the IEP his needs are being met, and whatever's going on outside of school, those appointments are being taken care of as well.
I know when we talk about the IEP, just exactly what you are saying, you want to run through that IEP after the school year has started and make sure that all those things are being met and taken care of. Because just because they were written in the IEP doesn't mean anyone's following them. They should be following them, but it doesn't mean that they for sure are. And some people are like, well, it's the rule and the law, and they're supposed to. Yes, they're supposed to. Well, this isn't a perfect world. And bad things happen all the time. And so we need to, be proactive and be the first one to say, hey, how did therapy go today? How did that session go today? How was the toileting today? What happened, to make sure it's being met.
And see, with me, I can't really do that because my son doesn't, socially, he's not able to explain that to me,
right,
or answer those questions. So I have to make sure that every IEP meeting that I have, the therapist is there, and I need to see your notes. Emailing her, from now, because that incident happened where he wasn't going for 6 weeks, I make sure I email them if not every month, every 5 or 6 weeks, and say, hey, what's going on? Just to
get an update.
Is everything fine? Because I would have known that had I did that. And actually, I did do it, but it was 6 weeks later. But I didn't do the initial one, and she wasn't. Nobody doing anything. So making sure that you're communicating
right with the staff to make sure the stuff is being done.
Omar won't be able to say, "Mommy, I didn't have speech therapy," because if I say, "Omar, did you have speech?" he's going to say yes to everything I ask him. It's going to be yes. Did you go to therapy? Yes. Did you not go to therapy? Yes. So I have to rely on myself to be that voice for him and make sure that he's getting everything that he needs, because that's my job.
Mm-hmm.
So number 6 is start a communication or journal. And I believe, in this right here, Omar had a communication in a journal notebook, but he actually had this when he was younger. I think the older you get, you may not need it. And then depend on what kind of special needs your child has. Mm-hmm. He no longer has the journal or the notebook. But when he was very small, I needed that. I look forward to that because I couldn't rely on him to talk to me and tell me.
So the teachers would write you a note.
Teachers wrote a note, and I provided it for them. And they told me what he ate, because he was going through growing pains, and I was trying to figure out what was he allergic to, what was making him sick. He had GI issues, and a lot of things was going. I wanted to know what he ate. That was very important because he was having problems with his stomach, and I didn't know what he was eating in school. I mean, when you have download the school menu, it tells you had a choice of this and that, but which one did he eat? And I would ask him, and he would actually say he ate both of them. So I'm like, I know you didn't eat both of them. You only ate one. But so I depended on that journal to find out what he did all day, because that was me finding out who he really was and what he was doing. Because he can verbalize these things. So I think, especially for the younger children and the children that can't really communicate, that are nonverbal, totally nonverbal, I think a journal or communication log is important for the teacher to provide, or the parents to provide for the teacher, so that you can figure out what's going on with your child throughout the day. And teachers, I don't believe, I would hope not, the teachers don't mind filling that out, because not all the children in the classroom probably would want or need one. But I just think, for me, I just think that starting off, especially when you're younger, it's a good thing to have that journal.
Right. And when my son was younger, and it went through about 6th grade, so he was in, obviously, K-3, he started school because he came out of our Birth to 3 program that he went to from birth to 3. And then he started actual school. They start school and get M-teamed when they're 3 years old. So he started that process, and they actually made up a sheet because he has a lot of medical issues as well. And it would be every day to give the communication. Like, how is his stomach? How is his behavior? How is this? Extra notes. And then we kept it, you know, and that went up and back. So sometimes if you work with your teacher, you know, you did the notebook thing. Sometimes a teacher might come up with a format that's easier to check the boxes,
And
you know, and write notes.
Teacher too, because I think at one point when he was smaller, he had that sheet. And I just think she probably photocopied it 100 times and everybody got one. But somewhere along the line, they stopped doing it. And I don't know if we changed schools because we moved to different cities. They were like, well, if you provide that, and I was like, okay, fine, you know, if you want me to provide it, I'll provide it. And they filled it out every day faithfully. I mean, there might have been a day or two they forgot, and they might have emailed me or texted me and said, hey, I'm so sorry. This is what, you know, because they totally forgot. I know when you go like on field trips and stuff like that, or you have a play or show at the school, it can get kind of busy and congested. And sometimes you can have an overwhelming day in the classroom, you know, the teacher. So I didn't make a big deal about it. I might have just called and said, hey, what did he eat today? Because like I said, for me, it was a comfort zone for me, but also he was having a lot of issues, you know, GI issues. And I just needed to know what he was putting in his stomach, you know, why is he constipated? He was going off all these medical challenges and I didn't know. So I started using that journal or notebook, log, or whatever you want to call it, to use my own log to tell the doctors, this is what he's eating. This is what he ate for breakfast. This is what the teacher said he ate for lunch. And maybe we should wean off of this and wean off of that. And then that goes back to the, let me piggyback a little bit about the meeting the teacher. And because my son has dietary issues, he can't drink liquids at all without a thickener because he aspirates, they go into his lungs. So every teacher, you know, when I tell them that, they're like, well, what is that? Like, I mean, they don't understand. So I need everybody to be on board, because if you give my son milk without the thickener, he can cut off his lung. I mean, he can stop breathing. You know, it's a serious thing, and other parents have serious issues as well. So that needs to be, for me, a comfort zone. I need to make sure everybody knows about that. Everybody's on board. And just like the water fountains, you know, kids stop by the water fountain and say, Omar can't sip water, but is he gonna sip it because everybody else is sipping it? But I need you as a teacher to know, oh no, Omar, you cannot do that because that's liquids and he can't drink straight liquids. So it's important, you know, to share that information. And even with the log, I mean, they tell me that, you know, this is what we had. We had a thickener. We gave him one, and I provide all the thickener and everything for him. They tell me this is what he did because he was always doing this. He never, ever had any liquids, straight liquids in his, you know, his system from birth.
Right. And I think that when you talk about the communication log, I remember the sheets, I actually put that into all of my IEPs. So when we were doing that for about 6 years, we did that with the communication. That definitely can be an item if you feel your school might not follow through with it.
Yeah.
You could add that to the IEP.
I don't see why, because you know what? I just thought about something that you said. It's one form. You make how many copies? And when you get low, you make another copy. It's not, and it's actually not even a notebook. Like you said, it's a sheet. You know?
But we did it to make sure that communication, you know, it stated in the IEP that communication sheet or a note, you know, book or whatever had to go up and back every day.
And parents, you can provide that, like you said yourself, because my son has nervous giggling. I don't know if you ever heard of that, where he laughs. And people say, oh, he's just laughing, but it can be annoying sometimes. But he laughs, inappropriately laughing. He may laugh if you fall. He may laugh if you cry. But it's called a nervous giggling. And the teachers don't understand that. They always call me and say, Omar's laughing. Can you tell him to stop? And I'm like, okay, put him on the phone. And they call me and they tell me that. And I'm like, Omar, stop laughing, you know, or I'll say something else and they'll say, okay, he'll stop laughing. But he'll be laughing for like 20 minutes at straight, and it could be at nothing. And I always found out that he's only doing it when you're moving him to another place, from one place to another, like the library. At the beginning of the school year, he's going to a new art class where there's mainstream kids. He's nervous. So he laughs because that's his anxiety. So what I downloaded a sheet, and it said something about nervous giggling, and I always tell the teachers to read it to him. And it basically kind of says like, I'm nervous, and the teachers, and it says, I know that the teacher wants me to stop laughing, but I'm nervous, and please make me feel comfortable. It's like a whole bunch of stuff. And she reads it to him every time, and I kid you not, he stops laughing. And then I say, before you take him to a place where he's may start laughing or he's uncomfortable, like the library, where you got to be quiet, introduce him, just let him know that he's going to the library prior, and that way he's prepared. If you just take him to the library and then tell him to be quiet, he's uncomfortable.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So I say that that's in my IEP as well. So that sheet is in my IEP. Every teacher has that sheet. I scan it. I email it to everybody so they can read it to him, or they can read it out loud, and they can try to calm him down because he's laughing. But I know it can be disruptive with the classroom. Right. But it's like, if you feel as though that needs to be in there, anything else, it shouldn't be a problem adding that to the IEP, especially if you're providing it.
Okay. No, and then, like you said, anything can be added if you really wanted to. So, you know what I'm saying? All these things you want done, well, you have an IEP. You add it. Yes. Okay. So number 7, back to school shopping. Get it done early and include your child. I think I mentioned this before. Back to school shopping for book bags. It's important to include your child because, again, this is something that they're doing so they can feel comfortable and have less anxiety. And you know what? I used to just grab stuff, and of course, school supplies are a little different. Grab stuff and don't include them. Just like you're putting on this. I just found it's easier, especially my son is getting old. I let him pick out his old sneakers because it's a process. He's going to school. He's going to be here. It's a school year. He needs to be included in the process. So I let him pick out his sneakers. I let him pick out the book bag with limits because he's almost 18, and he'll pick out a Power Ranger book bag if I let him. But I'm like, okay, I give him like 3 choices. You got to be appropriate because one year he picked out a Powerpuff Girls one. I'm like, I don't think you need to take the Powerpuff Girls. I think we got maybe a camouflage one or something.
Yeah, and then I think if you do it early, it's less crowds too in the stores, because I know my son, when you take him to a store and it's a lot of people, he has anxiety. People, it's sale time, tax-free weekend. People are pushing and shoving.
Yes, anxiety for us.
That's anxiety for me too. But I think if you prepare yourself and do it in a timely manner. And I think that people always want to, get the good deals, of course. But most places, starting August or the end of July, are having some kind of back to school sale somewhere. Everybody's having one, or you don't have to wait till the weekend. You can do it on a weekday if that's able. So, or in the morning if you're able. So it'll be less crowds. I just think that's easier to do that, and let them pick out their own book bag. It's just simple stuff like that to make them feel comfortable, especially if they're going to a new school or it's a new environment and they're having anxiety and already expressed that to you as well. Just make it feel like they're a part of it, because they are. I mean,
right.
That's going through the motions,
right? And giving some of that independence and responsibility and choices, helping them to start to make those choices.
Yeah.
For themselves.
And the last one, and this is my favorite, because this is the hardest for me, and I'll be honest, this is very hard for me. Make sure that they get back to their routine for sleeping. They need to get sleep, because you know how it is for us if we don't get our sleep. And I don't want to talk to you about sleep, because that's another conversation for me for sleeping. But the sleep routine and going back to bed, because most children are off in the summer and their sleeping routine is all off. I know my son is like 2:00 in the morning, he's singing songs. He's watching TV because it's summertime. I'm like, okay, he'll be all right if he gets a nap later. But I just think if you kind of gradually work back that transition, like maybe 2 weeks prior to the school year, you can get it back into that routine of going to bed early, eating breakfast in a timely manner. Because I know sometimes we get up and we're sleeping late. Breakfast is at 11:30. That's lunch in most schools. And then lunch is at dinner time, and everybody's thrown off. So if you try to prepare yourself like 2 weeks prior, to get him back into that routine, which my son right now is going back, on the 4th. So I'm weaning him back. Like, okay, you got to go to bed. And, he's looking at me like, get out of my room because I want to watch TV. But it's like, I got to prepare him. I can't wait till 2 days before school starts and say, okay, now this is it, because I got to give his body time to change and gradually back to that routine that he's been on vacay for 2.5 months, going to bed anytime he gets ready for the most part. And, and sleep's always been a factor with us anyway. He just has a hard time, and a lot of children that are autistic, just special needs in general, have a hard time with sleep. So if their sleep is off and it's kind of like all over the place in the summertime, it's best to kind of shift that thing back at least prior to school starting, so it won't be as a hard thing to do like the day before, 2 days before.
Right. And I've at least found, obviously my son also has a lot of medical issues, just like your son, that some of his medical issues really get enhanced by the lack of sleep or him not getting.
Domino effect. It is a domino effect.
And that upsets with his GI system and all of that. So I try to be as consistent. I too, as he's gotten older, try to give him a little bit more freedom where I'm not like, because he's usually 9:30. He really should fall asleep because that's how.
Really?
Because he doesn't sleep well. He gets up at 3 and 4 and 5.
So he's not falling asleep at 9:30 for the night.
Yeah, he's like out. He's like ready to go. Like ready at 4 in the morning.
I know, because Omar's singing songs. But see, the thing about it is, I can tell when it's really bad, because sometimes the teacher will call me and say, his eyes are red. Look like he's been drinking. So. His eyes are red, and the teacher will say, is something wrong, with his eye? I'm like, no, he didn't get any sleep. And he's like really not productive that whole day. And I try not to keep those phone calls down to a handful through the whole school year if I can. And what I normally do is I put him to bed, but sometimes I notice he'll get back up in the middle of the night. And then if I'm sleeping and I'm not paying and I don't know that he's up, he's just like, when I get ready to wake him up at 6 o'clock or 5:30, he's already up, but he's been up. I don't even know how long.
Right.
So I try to, I have a monitor. I had a baby monitor for a very long time, a baby monitor, just for 2 reasons. He has chronic asthma and bronchitis and respiratory issues. And I want to make sure that I can hear him breathing, or breathing was not right. And then I can hear him waking up singing songs in that way, that I knew that, okay, I need to get up and put him back and get him back to sleep.
Right.
So so I had that baby monitor, and I need it because that's the way for me to find out if he's sleeping.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Songs, he's gonna wake me up too.
Yes, I'm like, I don't know. I haven't slept in 21 years, but I didn't sleep that much before that, so it's all right. He's conditioned me well to do what I need to do.
And and ladies and gentlemen, the bad thing about it is she's honest. She's telling the truth. She really hasn't been sleeping.
Right. Don't. But no, I've just really found, and so, sometimes parents are like, hey, like, you give them the freedom. I find when you have some of those medical issues, I do find it enhances lots of things. He has issues with his ears and his eyes and his head, and he seems like if he pushes, like if he stays up till 10:30 a couple nights in a row, 11, all these things, headaches, stomach aches, his stomach he's not emptying his gut the right way. I don't know what it is, but I'm like,
wow,
let's get back on track.
Yeah. So that's
so I'm working at it right now too. Let me tell you, I've been given a little bit of freedom. And I'm like, let's rein it back in.
It takes and then actually, you know what? I think next year it's too late to do 3 weeks, because I'm already into the 2-week term. I think I'm going to start 3 weeks, because it is hard. It's hard in general when during the school year, when you're doing it, just to get them, to sleep, but it's hard, it's really hard. So I think next year, I think I'm going to start 3 weeks.
Right. And I think it's harder as your kids get older too, because you've been doing this for so long. Like, you have the baby monitor, but you don't like jump up the same way you used to.
Yes, yes.
I'm like, oh, it's been 21 years of the same thing.
Because he'll be 18 in 2 months. He's like a man, He's almost bigger than me. So it's just like it's different, but it's different in some ways, but then in some ways it's not,
Right.
He's going to be in school for a few more years. So
right.
I wanted him to be productive in school. And like you said, it's a domino effect. When he's not getting sleep, other stuff, behavior issues come to play with that,
right.
Especially with his, him being autistic and everything. And it's just a domino effect with everything else. It's just, and that's never good.
All right. So we all need sleep. That should be like the message.
Yeah, that's the message.
I know Dr. Barry, last time I talked to him, he was talking about sleep. We had a whole conversation after the show. We're going to be doing a show about sleep.
Yes.
How important sleep
is. His twins and everything. Yes.
How important that is.
Yeah.
So now we got our 8 of them out there. Yes. How do parents access that if they haven't watched the whole segment or they want to keep it for reference? Are you going to maybe like drop a thing below, or do you want them to drop a comment below to say, hey,
comment below and say, I'm interested, say me, and I will inbox you and I will get that PDF to you as soon as possible. Okay. So that way you can have your tips and everything, And
then you can put your own notes on there and your own thoughts with it. So.
Because there's so many, like I said, there's so many other things that you can do and you will need to do. But I think if you get those 8 things together,
you'll be off to
a good start. And that's what it's about, being a good start. Because it's a continuing process. After those 8, you're going to have to do more things. And once you get into the school, your system, you're going to have to do something else. But I think you have to have a plan. And those 8 things are the start of the plan.
Listen to her. All right. So before we wrap up, though, I just wanted, in case people want a little bit more information about you, about, being an author, what books have you written, or do you have a website that they can go to? Do you have new things coming up that are on the horizon that you want to share? Anything you'd like to throw out there, we will drop your website below this as well, so that if you want to access and go over there, but just a little bit on that.
Okay, so right now I am working on a caregiver's journal, and that journal should be out sometime in October. And it's basically, I wrote the journal because I believe in journaling. I believe in taking notes. I believe in writing your thoughts down. I believe in not holding your emotions and your feelings in. I just believe as parents, we need to release that, whether you're taking care of your special needs child, or it could be your mom, it could be your husband, it could be your sister. I just believe in expressing your emotions, because I just think it's very important to do that. And it's healthy. It's not healthy to keep all your feelings inside and your emotions inside. So I'm going to be coming out with that sometime in October. I'm actually working with the writing coach right now. I'm working on my first book. I actually have 2 anthologies I was a part of, but I'm working on my own book. So that should be coming out the beginning of the 2019, probably closer to February.
Okay.
So stay tuned. So I can't tell you all the goodies on that right now. So stay tuned. But if you're going to put my website, is www.sabrinatspeaks.com. And my Instagram is my Instagram is at sabrinatspeaks.com. On Twitter is sabrinatspeaks.com. I keep saying at Sabrina T Speaks.
It's because it's the time. This is what happens. Like any interviews that happen around 7,
it's almost my bedtime.
About 10 o'clock, it all gets a little fuzzy. And it's really the same thing as when we do interviews at like 6 in the morning, like at 7 and then 6. You got some crazy things that happen. Words.
No, you know what? I'm really on fire at 6 o'clock in the morning, girlfriend. After 8 o'clock, this is my bedtime. No, but Twitter is at Sabrina T Speaks. Instagram is at Sabrina T Speaks. And my website is www.sabrinatspeaks.com. And you can follow me on social media and get some more tips, because and I have a special needs group for special needs families where I share information. And I have a wonderful group community, and we connect every day and we share stories, and it's just a great place to connect. So, and that's Especially Love group, Facebook group. And so join my Facebook group and become a part of my community. And yeah, that's it for right now.
Well, we can drop also, you could drop the name of that community below in the comments.
Yeah, I'll put that all in the comments.
Yeah, so we have that, and I'll put the website at the top. And yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready for back to school. It's not going to be really, you're going back to school.
My game now. Yeah, we got to step up our game with these tips and make sure these kids are straight for the school year.
That is right. That is right. So thank you all for hanging with us for the last hour and listening in. Love it. If you want any more information about the On Air Advocate or our services, you can go to onair.advocate.com. Also, if you go to the top of this Facebook page, there's the blue button that says join group, visit group, see the group. It's the blue tab. Click the blue tab and become part of our community. We're all inside there, everybody.
Come on.
Yeah, come on in. We have conversations there as well. And Sabrina, again, I'm so thankful that you have spent the evening with us. I've had an awesome time. I'm like ready, though I'm not really going back to school that way, but I'm ready anyway.
Yes.
You made me ready.
Thank you, Tammy, for all you do with the community and spreading awareness. I really appreciate you, and I know you are a blessing to so many people.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm excited to have you back on again when we got these books coming out. I can't wait to hear. I'm going to have to find out those informational details on what this book is all about. All right. So on that note, folks, you all have a blessed evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.